RCHUB International Foundation for Research and Education, an ISO certified.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to focus more since we are going to our main important topics related to SPSS. So I wanted to complete important statistical techniques that's majorly or predominantly used in the article writing as well as thesis work. So in order to do that, I am not going to focus more on the research, but more on the statistics, what we generally use for the thesis and article work, as well as the fundamental research methods, the fundamentals of research methods. So let me go ahead. So talking about research, I know fundamentally it's all about we are searching once again. That's it. Research. This can be segregated in two words. That is research is already existing, or what we have to do is that we have to discover and create more insightful information. How? By systematically collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the data. So that's what the research is all about. So research, in short, is nothing but it's a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the information or the raw data in order to solve a particular problem. So that is what this research fundamentally means. And talking about the motivations of research, yes, obviously the curiosity to learn why this is happening. Is there any way to solve the problem, this particular problem? Say, for example, if you're going to deal with social problems, how to deal with it? So, or to discover new insightful ideas, or to improve a particular process or a product or a service, or contribute something theoretically or implication, yeah, like something implicationable. So, or for the personal or professional development, for all these, the research, all these are actually one of the base factor of motivation for the research to happen. So it's not just limited to an academic field. It is carried out in all aspects of life here and there, personally or professionally or academically. So talking about the objectives of research, here comes the important thing. So from here onwards, please pay attention. The thing is that when it comes to the objectives of research, I see many of my own scholar framing in a different way, which is completely inappropriate or not acceptable. The thing is that the objective of research has to have a flow. Have a flow in the sense, say, for example, generally, what will be the objectives of the research? It will be like identifying the phenomena, explore the unknown areas, to describe the characteristics, to identify what kind of relationship that does the variables or the two variables or the factors have on, and to find out the solution, provide the future suggestion for futuristic action to be carried out. So this is what is the objective, and this is how the flow of objective has to be. So how the flow of objective has to be is like it should start with the study and end up with a solution, or end up with giving suggestion based on the prediction. So that's how the objective of the research has to be. Say, for example, if you're going to conduct a research on different types of recruitment selection strategies adopted by the IT industry, so your flow has to be like to study and understand the concept of selection and recruitment strategy adopted by the IT industry in so and so district. So first to study, then to identify the variables. So to identify the variables and the factors associated with the recruitment selection process. So the second objective has to be dealing with identifying the factors and variables. And third, to analyze. And fourth, to estimate. And fourth, to something like that, like an impact, find an impact of so and so variable and so and so. And finally, to give possible suggestion based on the prediction what you made. So this is how the flow of objectives has to be. It should start with the study and end up with the solution. In between, it should have an objective to identify, illustrating the identify the factors and variables, and based on the identifies and factor, what are the analysis you're going to carry out, what are the estimates you're going to carry out, what is the model what you're going to suggest for your study, say based on what impacts what with what mediating variable. So this is how the flow of objectives has to be. And talking about the research design, so practically, this is what is all about. Generally, we adopt the one of the following research designs. Say, for example, descriptive. functionally, it's nothing but survey. And analytical research design, it's nothing but you already have the secondary data, and what you are going to do is that you are statistically perform different statistical technique to get more insightful information. This is what is analytical research design is all about. Applied research design is mostly implemented in business case studies where you will encounter some practical problems, specific problems, and you wanted to find an immediate solution for it. For that, applied research design is mostly used. And fundamental research design is like that. It's like you're creating a new theory about based upon your observations, like Big Bang theory or something like that. So it's all about creating a base theory and quantity. There are two things like quantitative and qualitative research. Here where the important things lies. Like for example, when we talk about the quantitative, that is quantity, it can be measured, right? It is generally this quantitative research that deals with data that has a numerical form. Say, for example, if you wanted to measure the effectiveness of your sports training, what you have carried out. So what you will do, you will check the metabolism rate, you will check the heart rate, you will check the overall physical well-being. Everything is measured in terms of number. So weight is measured in terms of number, height is measured in terms of number, the heartbeat, the pressure, everything is still measured in terms of number. So in such a case, if everything what you're going to deal with in your study is deals with the numbers, at that point of time, you will be using quantitative research design. In case qualitative, say for example, quality of the work. Say for example, or say you are working in a stores and you wanted to measure the satisfaction of your customer. So is there any way to measure the satisfaction of the customer numerically? No, there is no such thing. You have to create a scale. You need to create a scale in such a way that through which you can measure the qualitative data. To measure the how far he is satisfied, you are giving an option. Sir, how far you are satisfied with the service rendered by our stores? Or you highly dissatisfied or dissatisfied, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, or satisfied or highly satisfied? You're creating a Likert scale through which you are asking, you are making the respondents exemplify whether he's satisfied or not. So if you're going to deal with this, let's say for example, employee satisfaction with respect to job roles and responsibility, and so these cannot be measured in terms of quantity. These are qualitative data for which we need to create a scale and then we have to measure. So at this point of time, if it is not dealing with a numerical scale and if it deals with opinions and feelings, at that point of time, we will be using the qualitative research design. And then comes the conceptual research design. This is also the basic thing about the fundamental and conceptual research design is that actually, in fundamental, you will explore. That is a new area in which you're going to explore and gain in-depth knowledge. Whereas in conceptual, it's not so. You will be in such a place where you have observed for years and years, and you will be creating a theories. So this is what is the fundamental difference between the fundamental and conceptual. And empirical is nothing but you have experience. In case if you have experience and you have experimented and you also have observation, at that point of time, you can go for an empirical research. I see many of the scholars use that and have adopted empirical research design. Say, for example, I am an industrialist for past 3 years and past 6 years, and for past 3 years, I have been working closely with R&D with automobile industry. So I have experience of 3 years in automobile industry. Along with that, I have academic experience, and now if I'm going to conduct a research, then it is called as an empirical research. Generally, if you're not into that industry and you are not working in that industry, yet if you're carrying out a research, it is not an empirical research. In empirical research, you need to have an experience as well as you have to conduct and then if you're going to conduct a study, then it is called as an empirical. And that is called as one-time, say there is one-time study, a longitudinal study, clinical based study, diagnostic study. So I think these are completely described. So what is one-time research study and longitudinal study? Longitudinal, it will be done periodically, just like census. Clinical, it will be done in a medical research field, and diagnostic for to identify a particular problem and carry out a particular solution. So that's all it is. So these are the different types of research design that is predominantly used in most of the research cases, irrespective of your research field. So then talking about the research problem. So here where the thing comes into play. Actually, your thesis has to correlate in every aspect. Say your research problem should be identified from the review of literatures. The research problem should be fundamentally is like an unexplored area or a scope for further researchful idea. It's like, and this research problem will illustrate where you're going to investigate, where your research is going to be, and what kind of solution it may obtain from the from your research. So that is what is fundamentally the research problem. And so from the research problem is the research gap. So this research gap will exactly illustrate what all the researches has been carried out before the existing research and what research you are going to carry out so that it may fill some of the gap that is existing in the existing research, what have happened in the previous time before. So that is what the research gap is fundamentally is all about. So research problem, you will be illustrating in which specific area you're going to carry out the research. And in the research gap, you will be illustrating what all the research is carried out in this particular field and what are the gaps you have identified and how your research is going to fulfill this. So this is what, and then comes the hypothesis. There are different types of hypotheses. Generally, since we are going to talk about the SPSS and statistics. Let me focus on just null hypothesis. So hypothesis is fundamentally a tentative statement which you have framed to test your subject or the variables. That's it. This I will be explaining you in detail while we go for SPSS. So fundamentally, hypothesis is nothing but a tentative statement or an assumption based statement for which you are going to carry out statistical analysis and to prove whether your hypothesis is accepted or rejected. This we will be seeing in the forthcoming session. Okay. So generally, and then comes study area justification. Generally, when it comes to Viva, actually, this is the places where I have stated before. It is here most of the question lies. That is, they will be asking you why you have chosen this particular study area and what is your population, why you have chosen such population or a sample for your study, and how you justify your sample size, and what is the sampling technique you use, and what is the justification you could give for the sampling technique you use, and what kind of data collection instrument you have used. If you take a close look at most of the Vivas, with respect to the thesis defender, or generally, you will be seeing that majority of the questions lies in the research methodology and the major findings, what you have obtained using the statistical analysis. So that is what is our prime focus in the forthcoming live sessions. So talking about the study area justification, the thing is that it's not you're choosing the study area based on your convenience purpose. Say, for example, if majority of the IT companies are situated in Chennai, and if you're going to focus on the areas like Dindigul district or some other district where the IT companies are merely situated, it is not at all going to work out. So you always has to have a proper study area justification why you have chosen a particular location, and it should be more meaningful. That's very, very important, because I see many of the scholars choosing an inappropriate just for the sake of completion of thesis or something else. They are choosing a wrong set of study area, which is not at all justifiable. So we need to make sure that whenever we choose a study area, it is completely justifiable, and most importantly, it is feasible for the study to carry out. So whenever you conduct a study, whenever you conduct a research, we need to make sure that you need to consider three important things, Mark. Take it to your heart. The first and foremost thing is that for each and every research, there is a financial viability. It should be financially viable by you. and your family. That's the very first aspect. Second, the most important thing is that it should be timely feasible. If you're given a tenure of 4 years to complete your research, it should be you should be the thesis, the title, what you took for your research should be it's you should be in a position to complete within the 3 to 3.5 years, so that the next 6 months you may scrutinize to do to make your thesis more better. So it should be timely feasible. And most important, the third point is that it should be of a subject of interest. I see many scholars making mistakes in all three aspects. Sometimes they choose the title in which they are not interested. Second, sometimes they choose the title which is not financially viable by them or their by family. And third important thing is that sometimes they choose the title which is not at all feasible to complete within a 3 or 4 span years of time. So don't make this mistake. So make sure when you choose a topic, all these three aspects are done. And most importantly, yeah, talking about this particular aspect, study area justification. Choose an appropriate study area. Then comes the sample. I hope you know what the population. Say, for example, if I wanted to contact the customer satisfaction with respect to e-commerce platform. So, who all the people who are using e-commerce website for purchasing, all those are your population. So if Tamil Nadu is a study area, this entire Tamil Nadu people who are using e-commerce website is your population. And who you are going to select for your study is the sample. The sample is nothing but a subset of population that you have selected for your study. That is what is the sample. So there are different ways to justify your population. In case I tell you a simple technique, so this is the formula, and if you want, you can also use a Rosov calculator, a website through which you can easily determine your population size. So if your population is known, say for example, employees in the ITES, handicapped employees in ITES, special economic zones. Special economic zones. So there will be only limited handicapped employees with respect to special economic zones. So and if you know the exact number, then you can go for known population whose formula has been given. But in case if your population size is unknown, so this is the formula you have to use. That is n equal to z square p into 1 minus p by e square. So z is nothing but this e square. If our 95% confidence interval, it will be 1.96 and it will vary as per the confidence interval. And I tell you what, this will comes around 385, which means if your population size is unknown or limitless, infinite. So in such a case, if it's crossing more than 20 lakh or 2 crore, if goes like that, it is better to use unknown population size, which means you need to consider at least 385 as your sample size. So this will comes around 385. And if your population is known, then you can go for known population size formula. So this is how you have to define. So I know the population size, so I have estimated this as my sample size. If you don't know the population size, so I have used the unknown population size formula, which was estimated to be around 385. So I have considered more than 385 as my sample size. So that will be appropriate. So I hope you know the different types of sampling techniques. So there are probability sampling techniques. There is non-probability sampling techniques. You know what is simple random sampling, which means giving equal chance for every respondent to get selected. Systematic in the sense, say for example, if there are 100 houses and you are going to take survey only from 10 houses, first, 10th, 20th, 30th with 10 as an equal interval. It's called a systematic sampling. Stratified sampling in the sense you will be segregating. You'll be segregating into the homogeneous group, and from each homogeneous group you will be selecting a particular respondent, and then finally you will be creating a group for the study. Clustering in the sense you will be creating a heterogeneous group, and then you will be randomly selecting one, which is known as a cluster, and you will be randomly selecting one cluster or a significant amount of cluster for your study. Area sampling is geographical sampling. Multi-stage in the sense multi-stage in the sense with India as a country, Tamil Nadu as a state, and from Tamil Nadu, these as a taluks, I am going to consider the sample respondent. So there is area, and within area there is another area. So this is what happens with respect to multi-stage sampling. From each taluk, from each district, within the state of Tamil Nadu, I consider my population, my samples. So this is what is called as multi-stage sampling, and sequential sampling, as the name suggests, it's sampling in a continuous manner. And there is non-probability sampling known as, purposive sampling, and quota, in the sense you will be giving quota. Those who fulfills a quota, for you will be collecting the data. That is what is called as quota sampling. So, and different types of data collection. I hope you know that is observational method, personal interview method, telephone interview method, mail questionnaire method, and scheduled interview method. With respect to most of the research, you have to have a clear evidence. So it is better to have a personal interview with, it is better to have a questionnaire, a structured questionnaire, or a scheduled interview, or non-scheduled interview with a structured questionnaire, or by using the online platform. So these are the most accepted way with respect to compiling the data. Okay, so I think this is more than enough as a research, because we need to focus more about the statistics and SPSS. So let me quickly rewind what I have illustrated. So first, I have illustrated what this research is all about. It is been already existing, or you have to discover. That is what is called as research. Fundamentally, it is all about. Or sometimes you need to create a new things. So it or create a knowledge, or science. Overall, it's nothing but it's a process, systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the data. So motivations of research, we have seen the objectives of the research. Apart from this, I have also explained how the flow of objective has to be. Say, for example, if it's related to selection and recruitment selection strategy, first objective has to be to identify, to study and understand the concept of recruitment selection strategy adopted by the IT industry. What your second objective has to be to identify to identify uh, your second objective has to be to identify the following factors and variables associated with the uh, selection selection strategies. Recruitment selection strategy. Your third objective has to be to analyze how the following recruitment strategies affect the selection process, and to estimate, and then finally to give suggestions. So this is how your flow has to be: study, identify, analyze, estimate, or something like that. Then to impact, like that, what are the statistical technique you are going to apply, and then finally your suggestion. So this is how the flow of objective has to be. We have discussed about various types of research designs, and then we have discussed what the research problem is all about, then research gap, the hypothesis of the study area justification, which is and I also told most of your question will be with respect to research methodology, will be like why you choose particular study area for your study. What is a sample? Who is a sample you have considered for the study? How you have derived your sample size? And what justification you have for your sample size? And what kind of sampling technique you have used? So I have explained briefly about what this research methodology is all about. And it is here where the 90% of your questions will be asked. And apart from that, your major findings will be asked. And most importantly, they will be asking for each and every objective, have you performed analysis? And what was your major findings with respect to your each and every objective, what you have framed. So now we are going to get into the statistics part. So I tell you, ma. So from here onwards, please pay attention, ma. I hope everything is clear as of now. Is everything clear, ma?
Yes, sir. No problem, sir.
Okay, so just hold on a minute. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
I think there is some type of scribbling in my slide. Just hold on a minute. Okay. Okay. What if I tell statistics is very simple? Yes. You believe me or what? Statistics is simple. You know what? We are doing statistics only for these five reasons. We are doing this entire statistics only for this five reasons. The very first reason is to describe the data set or to identify whether the two variables what we are considering for the study has significant association with one another, or the variables what we are considering has significant relationship with one another, or is the variables what we are considering has significant difference between one another, or the one variable is influencing the another variable. Only for these five reasons we are doing entire statistics. You believe me or what? This is what statistics is all about. Statistics is very simple. It's not as complicated as we think. When we see from the bird's eye point of view, these all are the five simple reasons for which we do the entire statistics. So pay attention to everything what I tell right now, because these are generally majority of the statistician will not tell this shortcuts. I'm letting you know these shortcuts so that you may come up as a good researcher in future period of time. And listen to me very carefully. So we are doing this entire statistics only for these five reasons: to describe the data set, to find significant association between the variables, to find a significant relationship between the variables, to find a significant difference between the variables we are consider or not, and to find the significant influence of one variable on the another variable. Yeah, it's really a very good question, Ma, that I will be answering you. Yeah, in today's session itself, I will be answering you. Don't worry. Okay. Actually, for one of the person, one of the student have asked, what is the difference between association and relationship? I will tell you. So let me go with the flow so that you may easily able to understand. Whatever you have, whatever doubts you have, you will be. I will be giving you the time. You please ask me. Even if not in this live session, in tomorrow live session, feel free to ask me. Okay. When it comes to statistics, I tell you what. Many people say there are different types of data: nominal data, scale data, or forget about it. When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data. When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data. One is categorical and another is metric. Let me repeat, there are only two types of data. Forget about what you have read in the past. The scale, the nominal, the ordinal, the ratio, forget about it. When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data. One is categorical data and another is metric data. What is categorical data? Categorical data is any data that deals with categories, groups. Say, for example, male, female. It's a categorical data, right? So this is what is called as, we generally call it as nominal data, nominal. What do you prefer, tea or coffee? Or a smoker or a non-smoker? So this is what is called as categorical data or nominal data. And what is a metric data? Metric, as the name suggests, it's numbers or anything that deals with Likert scale or ordinal scale. That is what is called as metric data. Say, for example, your height, your weight, everything is measured in terms of numbers, right? So that is what is called as metric data. Say, for example, you are asked a 7-point Likert scale or 5-point Likert scale, how satisfied you are, or highly dissatisfied, and neither satisfied or dissatisfied, satisfied and highly satisfied, which is the 5-point Likert scale. And if your sample size is more than 60, at that point of time, this Likert scale based question becomes a metric data. So this is what you have to remember. Nominal data is nothing but groups or categories, simply called as nominal data. And metric data is any data that deals with numbers or Likert scale based question. So these are the two different types of data with respect to statistics. With respect to statistics, there is only two types of data: categorical and metric. So what will be the combination? What will be the combination? So either the two data could be categorical. You accept. If your data is categorical in nature, generally go for descriptive statistics. I tell you what this descriptive statistics is all about. Say, for example, if you are considering two variables for your study. And if both the data are categorical in nature, one is all categorical and another is also categorical, at that point of time, you have to do significant association test. And if one of your data is categorical and another data is metric, you have to do difference test. And if both the data are metric, at that point of time, you have to do relationship test or influence test. So take it to your heart. This is the mantra. This is the formula. So if it is categorical or metric, you can do descriptive statistic. But the thing is that you won't be having any second data. You won't be having second variable. At that point of time, you can do descriptive statistics. If both the data are categorical, you have to do significant association test. And if one data is categorical, another data is metric, you have to do significant difference test. And if both the data are metric, you have to do significant relationship test or influence test. So, as I told you before, if you are going to deal with a demographic variable, say age, gender, you ask a question related to age, gender, income level, education level. At that point of time, everything is a categorical data. You may ask, sir, age, how it becomes a categorical data? Sometimes many of the scholars, instead of asking the question, what is your age dash, they'll be asking, is your age is between less than 25 or 25 to 35 or 36 to 45 or 45 and above. At this point of time, it becomes category. If you simply ask a question, what is your age? He will be putting a number. At that point of time, it's a metric data. But in case, if you are segregated as a group, what is your income? Less than 1 lakh, 1 lakh to 2 lakh. 2 lakh to 3 lakh or more than 4 lakhs. So at that point of time, it becomes a categorical data. So if you put only dash, what is your income dash, it becomes a metric data. If you categorize, then it becomes a categorical data. So at that point of time, we will be simply doing percentage analysis, and that which is also comes under descriptive statistics. And if it's completely deals with numbers, then we'll be using descriptive statistics, which is nothing but mean, median, mode. That I will be explaining you tomorrow with the SPSS, so that you may clearly able to understand what this is all about. So I tell you a basic thing, what this mean, median, mode, standard deviation, kurtosis, and skewness is all about. Tomorrow we'll be seeing a live example through which you may easily able to understand. Say mean is nothing but an average value. Mean is nothing but the average value. Just hold on. Mean is nothing but just a moment. So in case if you have 10 vehicles, if you have 10 vehicles and you wanted to know the average mileage of this 10 vehicles, that is Honda Activa, and you have found that first vehicle is giving 31 kilometer per liter, second vehicle is giving 34 kilometer per liter, third vehicle is giving 32. Similarly, what you will do, you will count all the mileage divided by 10. This which gives the average value, right? So mean is nothing but the average value. Median is nothing but the middle value. Say, for example, you have arranged all the 10 vehicles. You are consider the fifth vehicle as a middle vehicle and you test the mileage, and you think you have a hypothesis that the middle vehicle mileage will be same for all the 10 vehicles. That is what is called as median. Median is nothing but choosing the middle value and considering that as the average value. That is what is median. Mode is nothing but most repeated value. Out of 10 vehicle, nearly 4 vehicle is giving a mileage of 32 kilometer per liter. So at that point of time, most repeated value is nothing but that is the most repeated value. So you will be assuming that most of the Honda Activa will give a mileage of 32 kilometer per liter. Standard deviation is how far the value is getting deviated from the mean value. Say mean calculated value is 34 kilometer per liter. So how far the value is deviating from the center 34 value. So that is what is standard deviation. Kurtosis is nothing but the measure of peakness. Say mostly with respect to share price, we will measure the kurtosis. And the skewness is the measure of flatness, how far it is flat. And similarly, they also measure in which side it is being laid. The skewness, the normal distribution curve is laid. Tomorrow, while I teach share distribution, I will be easily explaining you this thing. So as of now, just understand the concept. The thing is that mean is nothing but the average value, median is nothing but the middle value, and mode is nothing but the most repeated value. And standard deviation is how far the value is getting deviated from the mean value, and the kurtosis and the finally skewness, the measure of peakness and flatness. So this is what is descriptive statistics is all about. And so descriptive statistics generally deals with percentage analysis and their thing, that is mean, median, mode, standard deviation, kurtosis, and skewness. Now we are going to the important topic. So I told you, right? When it comes to statistics, there are only two types of data. One is categorical and metric. And if I told that if both the data are categorical in nature, at that point of time, you have to do significant association test. Now you may have a question, sir, what kind of statistical technique do I need to employ in order to identify the two variables are associated with one another? For that, the test, what you have statistically is chi-square test, which you all know. So if you wanted to find a significant whether the two variables are significantly associated with one another, at that point of time, you have to use chi-square test. So in order to do chi-square test, the fundamental thing is that both the data has to be categorical in nature. The most important thing is that if one of your data has only two options and another data has either two options or two plus option, at that point of time, you have to use chi-square test. But if both the data are having two plus options, at that point of time, you can go for correspondence analysis. Okay. So correspondence analysis, just a higher end version of chi-square test. That's it. Nothing more complicated. It's very similar. The protocol is very similar to the chi-square test. So if both the data are categorical in nature, say I will give you an example. So for example, you are going to a cancer institute. In the cancer institute, you are asking two questions. Are you a smoker or a non-smoker? Two options, right? Smoker or a non-smoker. Second question is, are you a cancer patient or a non-cancer patient? Are you a cancer patient or a non-cancer patient? So, and you found that most of the smokers are cancer patients. So you can say, right, there is some association between smoking and cancer. Now you may have a question. As Priya asked, sir, why can't we say there is some relationship between the significant relationship between smoking and cancer? We cannot say, ma. We cannot say there is significant relationship. Why? Because when it comes to relationship, it could be positive or negative. Let me repeat. When it comes to relationship test, it could be positive or negative. Say, for example, myself and it's Priya, right? It's Priya. So myself and Priya, we are competing each other by running race. So in running race, our speed is measured in terms of kilometer per hour. And Priya is running at nearly 10 kilometer per hour, which is a metric data, right? The data type 1 is Priya's speed, that is 10 kilometer per hour. And data 2 is nothing but my speed. My speed is just 8 kilometer per hour, which is also metric. So Priya is 10 kilometer per hour and mine is 8 kilometer per hour. We can say, right, we are doing same action, which means we have relationship with one another. The thing is that when Priya covers 100 meter, I may able to cover only 80 meter. We have 80% relationship. When Priya covers 200 kilometer, I covers 160 kilometer. So this is what is the relationship, and the relationship could be negative also. Say for example, if Priya is running in a forward direction and if I am running in a backward direction, so what happens? Still we have relationship because we are doing the same action, we are running. The thing is that when Priya covers 10 kilometer forward, I cover 8 kilometer backward. We have negative relationship. In association, we cannot say there is positive association or negative association. We could simply say, yes, the smoking and cancer has some association. We cannot say positive or negative. But when it comes to relationship test, we can say that whether there is a positive relationship or negative relationship. When here in this case, we have negative relationship. When Priya covers 10 kilometers forward, I will cover 8 kilometers backward. Sir, which is in order to check the relationship, we have to use a correlation analysis. Yeah, what is that I'll be answering. We have to generally use the correlation analysis. If both the data are met, say for example, GDP and population. As the population increases, GDP decreases. You know, right? When India population increases, GDP decreases. Negative relationship. When the industry index increases, GDP increases. Positive relationship. So when we find there is a positive relationship or negative relationship, there is a significant relationship, at that point of time, you can go for regression analysis. That is the significant influence test or significant impact test, whatever we can say. So if both the data are metric only, we can do significant relationship test using correlation analysis. And if there is a significant correlation between one another, you can go for regression analysis. That is significant influence test. That is regression analysis. So in case one data is categorical in nature and another data is metric in nature, what am I supposed to do? Say for example, gender, it is a categorical data, right? Male, female. And if one other data is metric, say the employee satisfaction level, which is 5-point Likert scale or 7-point Likert scale. At that point of time, you have to use the significant difference test. There are different types of significant difference tests based on, and it has a separate set of criteria also. Say, for example, you have in categorical data, you have only two options. Say male, female, only two options, right? At that point of time, you have to go for independent sample T test. In case if you have more than 2+ options, at that point of time, you have to go for ANOVA test. Say, for example, in which area of residence? Urban, semi-urban, rural. 3 options, right? 2+ options. At that point of time, you cannot employ independent sample T test. You have to go for ANOVA test. In case you have a standard value, say for example, company have given a mileage that my vehicle, the Honda Activa, will give a mileage of 32 km per liter. 32 km per liter standard value is given. You are going to compare the 10 vehicles what have came to you against the standard value. That place only you can use one-way ANOVA. I see many of the scholar without understanding, they will be stating that I have used one-way ANOVA. No. One-way ANOVA is the place where you will be using when you have a standard value. Then paired sample t-test. Generally, with respect to physical studies, they use paired sample t-test. What is the effect before training and what is the effect after the training? What is the impact before the training? What is the impact after that? At that point of time, you can use paired sample t-test. What is the stamina of the respondents before the training? What is the stamina of the respondents after the training? So at that point of time, you can use paired sample t-test. And if your sample size is less, you can go for a non-parametric test. Overall, this is what is the entire statistic table. Very simple. If you have 2 categorical data, go for chi-square, go for association test using chi-square test or correspondence analysis based on the criteria. For both the data are metric, and then you have to do relationship test using correlation analysis. And if there is significant correlation, you can go for regression analysis. And if for both the data, one data is categorical and another data is metric, go for, and if it has only 2 options in the category, go for independent sample t-test. If it has 2+ options, go for ANOVA. If you have standard value, go for one-way ANOVA. If you have, it's a time metric based data, that is time before and after, go for paired sample t-test. And if your sample size is less than 60, if the data are not normally distributed, go for the Mann-Whitney U test or Kruskal-Wallis test, the same thing. Instead of independent, you will be using Mann-Whitney test. Instead of ANOVA, you will be using Kruskal-Wallis. That's it. Instead of paired sample t-test, you will be using Wilson-Seinrand test. That's it. Very simple. This is what is the entire statistics is all about. Very simple, right? So, about only 5 things. Using percentage analysis or the descriptive statistics, and to identify the significant association between the variable or not, to identify the significant relationship between the variable or not, or to identify the significant difference between the variable or not, or there is significant influence of one variable on the another variable or not. If both the data are categorical, go for association test using chi-square statistics. If both the data are metric, go for regression test using correlation analysis. And if both the data are correlated, go for regression analysis. And if one data is categorical and another data is metric, go for significant difference test based on the criteria, choose the appropriate statistical technique. Very simple, right? So apart from that, yeah, this is, you hope, as far as UGC guidelines, make sure that your article or thesis is less than 10% pressurized, and make sure you don't use AI generated content. In case if you found AI generated content, content will not be considered for the publications. And as far as AI generated content, UGC have approved that you can use only for grammatical correction and not for content creation. And when it comes to UGC guidelines, so these all are the protocols that, or the format you have to use for thesis, and this is the format you have to use for writing the article and publish. Yeah, in case if you are using plagiarized content, yeah, you will be blacklisted and not be considered. So this is what is all about. So last 15 minutes, what all the doubts? Do you have any doubts in today's session? Is everything clear as of now? I hope I have made clear that statistics is simple. Do you accept me? Sir, which test we can apply to check the relationship between modifiable and non-modifiable factors which causes obesity? Modifiable and non-modifiable. Ma, I wanted to know what all the variables you have considered, ma. You can unmute and tell me, ma.
सर लाइक मॉडिफिएबल फैक्टर्स हम ले रहे हैं एक्सरसाइज डाइटरी पैटर्न्स एंड नॉन मॉडिफिएबल फैक्टर्स लाइक एज सेक्स एंड जेनेटिक्स
Genetics. Actually, you can consider
यस
all these variables all together to find a relationship or test or not. That I will be teaching you, ma, by tomorrow or the after tomorrow. When I perform correlation analysis using SPSS, you will be easily able to understand. Actually, the beauty of the correlation analysis is that you can use n number of variables to and identify the relationship between each and every variable you consider for the study. Uh, Say, for example, you have, is all the variables or metric data, ma?
यस सर
Then you can easily use the correlation analysis, ma. Pearson correlation you can use. You remind me during when I teach a SPSS, ma, that I will be illustrating. Okay. So, any other questions, ma? Anyone? Any other questions? Is everything clear? Actually, what I have taught you right now with respect to statistics is the foundation. And generally, most of the statistician will not tell you this because uh, this is what is money for them. The thing is that this is what it is. The entire statistics is very simple, provided you have to understand just the foundation and bird's eye view of the statistics. And you don't need to do any statistical work as of now. We have various software. If you can't afford SPSS, you can go for PSPP, which is completely open source. No, ma, Pearson test is not chi-square test, ma. Pearson test is a correlation analysis. Chi-square test is completely different, where you will be comparing observed reading against the expected reading. I hope that is different and this is different, ma. Don't get confused. No. SPSS, I cannot afford SPSS for each and everyone. Actually, you can download the SPSS trial version and make use of it. And if you have an option to use it, don't use illegal or unlicensed software, or don't crack it. If you can't afford SPSS, there is an open source software called as PSPP. That is completely open source, very similar to the SPSS in terms of navigation and as well as with respect to the result what it provides. So even the table what it provides is 100% accurate and very same to the SPSS. You can make use of that software. I will teach you SPSS in case if you can't afford or if your institution is not providing SPSS for you, you can use PSPP, which is also an open source software. One way or another. Let me explain. Yeah, I say for example, uh, Disosi, yeah, Disosi, you are running a service center. You are running a service center, Royal Enfield Showroom Service Center, and the Royal Enfield company. There is something called as Royal Enfield Meteor, right? Meteor 50 bike. The company have claimed that the Meteor 350 of Royal Enfield bike will give a mileage of 30 kilometer per liter, and you wanted to measure what they have given, what they have stated is true or not. So what you are doing is that nearly 15 vehicles have came to you for service, and you have checked the mileage. The first vehicle is giving 28 kilometer per liter, and second vehicle is giving 32 kilometer per liter. The third vehicle is giving 29 kilometer per liter, and you are calculating all the 10 vehicles and dividing by 10. So 10 vehicles, right? So on an average, the mean value what you have found was nearly 28 kilometer per liter. So you see that there is a difference, right? The standard value, the company have claimed that the Royal Enfield Meteor 350 will give a mileage of 30, but you have found only 28. So there is a significant difference in the mileage, right? So when a standard value is given, a standard value, which is a metric data, that I will show you in SPSS, because many people, instead of writing ANOVA, they will write one way ANOVA I have used. No, that's not appropriate. That is completely different, and this is completely different. The statistical part is completely different. The formula is completely different. I hope it's clear. Biosi, it's clear, ma? The example what I given right now, is it clear, ma?
Yes, sir. It's clear. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay, ma'am. So anyone, if you're conducting a multi-phase like first phase, and you wanted to check the prevalence of any disease, then I wanted to go for intervention. You can go for paired sample t-test, ma'am. You can go for paired. I told you, right? In case if it's a metric data, provided should be a same sample, but two different time intervals. Say for example, how was the patient before the surgery? What was his heartbeat? What was his BP? What was his weight? What was his sugar level? And the same sample, the same set of sample after the surgery. What was his BP? What was his weight? What was his so and so? So if the same set of sample at two different time interval, at that point of time, you can go for paired sample t-test. If there is a first phase, but you can compare only two phase at a time. You can compare only two phase at a time. That is what is the limitation of paired sample test. But if you want to find a relationship between the first phase and second phase and third phase, at that point of time, you can go for correlation analysis, provided it should be a metric data.
No, sir, my question is like which study design I should mention, because in first phase, if we are doing the prevalence, and then if we are doing any intervention, same population, what study design I should mention here?
It's descriptive, right? Descriptive survey taking. It's like you are having a preset of questionnaire, and with the same set of sampling, you are collecting a quantitative data and qualitative data. See, if you are using qualitative and quantitative data, say for example, you are not only measuring the quantitative, you are also measuring the how far your mental health, the physical well-being, like that and all. If you are going to collect the data, it is better to use a descriptive research design. That is a combination of qualitative and quantitative data. No, you are going completely dealing with only quantitative data. Say, for example, clinical study or something related to medical work. You can generally put, and if every data is quantitative, you can go for quantitative research design. That's it, ma. You're asking only about the research design, right? Or
yes, sir. Like if first phase I am collecting the prevalence of the any disease, and just imagine I want to find out the prevalence of the oral cancer, and then I next phase I want to do behavior counseling and pharmacological counseling. So
Here you have to use descriptive research design. Say you are behavioral counseling in the sense it deals with qualitative data, right?
okay, it's
So
mixed of qualitative and
yeah, it's
quantitative both.
mix of when there comes a mix of qualitative and quantitative data, and if there comes a data collection using a questionnaire and all in a structured way or something in an unstructured way, it is better to adopt descriptive research design. I see many of the scholars sometimes use on quantitative research design. Instead of that, you can simply write it as descriptive research design. Descriptive research design, as far as the CR Potari is concerned, page number 36, if you take a glance over it under the research design as a topic, you'll be seeing that descriptive research design is nothing but a sample or a survey taken using a structured questionnaire or unstructured questionnaire. It could be quantitative or a qualitative. That is what is the definition that has been given under the descriptive research design. So you no need to mention that I have used empirical come descriptive research design. You don't need to mention like that. Just mention one type of research design, what you have used. That should be predominant. That's it. Descriptive research design holds good mark, but the thing is that with you in the field experience, you know what kind of research design is more appropriate for you.
Okay.
I hope I have answered. Any other question, ma? What are the different ways? I told you, right? By observation, but the thing is that by observation, you don't have evidence, which is not acceptable with respect to current research studies. There is second thing is structured questionnaire, and that is through online platform or offline platform, which is highly acceptable. Even if it's a telephonic interview, it's not acceptable. If you're going to conduct an interview with video and audio recording, that is acceptable. So there are different ways to collect the data. But most acceptable way is that you should have a physical evidence either in audio or video in case for interviewing, or in case if you're not interviewing, you want a pointed answer. At that point of time, it is better to go for structured or unstructured interview with the right sample respondent using structured questionnaire. Sir, where we can talk? Just Google it out, PSPP, you may be able to download. Very easy. It's a Linux, it is downloadable only. Just Google it out, PSPP, you may be able to download. So I hope I have answered everyone's question, and I hope I have made clear everything in today's session. So don't forget about what I told with respect to statistics. Statistics, we are doing only for 5 reasons, and there are only 2 types of data. With the 2 types of data, what are the combination? Either it could be 2 things, could be categorical in nature. 2 things are categorical in nature. Go for association test using chi-square or correspondence analysis. And if both the data are metric, go for correlation analysis. Yes. With GNU operating system, you can Yes, ma. It's from the GNU operating system, Linux based GNU operating system. You can download it. Yeah. Where I have stopped. Yeah. If both the data are metric, go for correlation analysis. If both has correlation, go for regression analysis. If one data is categorical in nature and another data is metric, then at that point of time, you have to go for significant difference tests. There are different types of t-test based on different set of criteria that you have to do it. Okay. So yeah, you will be given a recording sessions, ma. Don't worry. So you will be able to see all the things along with my PPT, the recorded sessions. Okay. So I think with this we will wind up. Can we wind up? Okay, ma. Thank you all. Thank you, God. We see. Take care. Bye.
Contact RCHUB International Foundation for Research and Education. WhatsApp 9888 231 231.